He thought his antics were harmless fun, a tourist tossing a clown mask at the stoic royal guard, convinced his status as a visitor gave him free rein to mock tradition. The crowd chuckled nervously, expecting nothing more than silence from the disciplined figure. But when the guard stepped forward, his deliberate and commanding actions stunned everyone. What happened next not only silenced the mockery but left the entire square questioning their own values. Let's start from the beginning. The morning light filtered through the trees surrounding Buckingham Palace, casting intricate patterns of light and shadow on the cobblestone path. The palace itself stood majestic and imposing, its cream-colored facade gleaming in the early sunlight. A soft breeze carried the faint scent of blooming flowers from the neatly manicured gardens, mingling with the aroma of fresh coffee wafting from a nearby vendor's cart. Tourists filled the square, speaking in a medley of languages, their laughter and chatter forming a lively backdrop to the otherwise serene scene. Standing resolutely at his post was the royal guard, an embodiment of discipline and tradition. He appeared to be in his late 20s, his tall, muscular frame impeccably clad in the iconic red tunic and black trousers with a sharp crease down the front. The bearskin hat, a symbol of his station, sat firmly atop his head, adding a sense of grandeur to his already commanding presence. His skin was pale, a sharp contrast to the dark hue of his uniform, and his piercing blue eyes, though seemingly fixed straight ahead, conveyed an alertness that suggested he missed nothing. His rifle was polished to perfection, its metallic surface catching the morning light with a subtle gleam. Occasionally he adjusted his stance with a faint click of his polished black boots on the stone ground, a sound that seemed to punctuate the air with authority. In the crowd, a man in his mid-30s stood out like a sore thumb. Slightly overweight, with a ruddy complexion and unruly brown hair, he wore a garish Hawaiian shirt adorned with bright yellow flowers and a pair of khaki cargo shorts that seemed 2 sizes too big. A neon green cap perched awkwardly on his head, and a pair of oversized sunglasses dangled from his shirt collar. He carried a backpack slung carelessly over one shoulder, the zipper half open to reveal a jumble of snacks, brochures, and a gaudy clown mask. His loud voice and exaggerated gestures drew attention, his laughter cutting through the general buzz of the crowd like a foghorn. "All right, folks, watch and learn," he declared with an air of self-importance, holding up the clown mask for all to see. His companions, a group of equally boisterous tourists, egged him on with cheers and jeers. "This is going to be legendary," he added, a mischievous grin spreading across his face as he sauntered toward the guard. As the man moved closer, the atmosphere in the square began to shift. Conversations among the tourists dwindled, their attention drawn to the unfolding scene. A sense of anticipation hung in the air, broken only by the occasional click of a camera or the distant rumble of a passing bus. The bright sunlight glinted off the brass buttons of the guard's uniform, highlighting the meticulous care taken to uphold the image of tradition. The man's shadow stretched long across the cobblestones as he approached, his movements casual but purposeful. He swung the clown mask in his hand, the bright colors flashing in the sunlight. "Let's see if this guy's really unshakable," he muttered, loud enough for the nearby crowd to hear. Several tourists began recording with their phones, sensing that something noteworthy was about to happen. The guard remained immobile, his posture a testament to years of rigorous training. His face, partially obscured by the brim of his bearskin hat, was unreadable, yet his rigid stance exuded an air of authority that seemed almost tangible. The man's antics, however, were undeterred. He leaned in closer, waving the mask in front of the guard's face as if taunting him. "Come on, give us a smile," he jeered, his voice dripping with mockery. The crowd reacted with a mix of nervous laughter and murmurs of disapproval. Among them, a middle-aged woman in a navy trench coat shook her head, her expression one of disdain. Beside her, a group of teenagers giggled nervously, their phones capturing every second. Nearby, a young boy with curly red hair clutched his father's hand tightly, his wide green eyes fixed on the scene. "Why is he being so mean?" the boy asked softly, his voice tinged with confusion. The man's taunts escalated. He attempted to place the mask over the guard's face, but the guard's left arm shot up in a swift, calculated motion, blocking the attempt with an air of effortless precision. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath that seemed to ripple across the square. The man stumbled back slightly, his smirk faltering for a moment before he regained his composure. "Oh, come on, it's just a joke," he exclaimed, spreading his arms in exaggerated disbelief. Turning to the crowd, he added, "You all need to lighten up." Some in the crowd chuckled nervously, but the majority remained silent, their expressions ranging from discomfort to outright disapproval. The man, undeterred, took a step back and tossed the clown mask at the guard's feet. "What now, Tin Man?" he taunted, his voice loud and brash. The mask landed with a soft thud, its vibrant colors stark against the muted tones of the guard's uniform. The tension in the square reached its peak, every eye fixed on the guard, waiting to see what he would do next. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The guard remained motionless, his stoic demeanor unbroken despite the provocation. Then, to the astonishment of the crowd, he took a deliberate step forward. The click of his boots against the cobblestones echoed in the hushed square, a sound that carried both authority and intention. The crowd parted instinctively, creating a wide berth around the guard as he bent down to retrieve the mask. His movements were slow and deliberate, each action exuding a quiet dignity. He turned the mask over in his hands, examining it briefly before straightening to his full height. With the mask held firmly in his grasp, he began walking toward the man. The man's smirk wavered as the guard approached, his towering figure casting a long shadow. The crowd held its breath, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. When the guard stopped just a foot away, he extended the mask toward the man, his piercing blue eyes locking onto his. Though he spoke no words, the message was clear. This was not a game. The man hesitated, his bravado crumbling under the weight of the guard's silent reproach. "It's just a bit of fun," he muttered weakly, his voice barely audible. He reached out to take the mask, his hand trembling slightly. The guard's expression remained impassive, yet his presence alone seemed to command respect. Before the man could retreat, a small voice rang out, "Leave him alone." The red-haired boy stepped forward, his freckled face flushed with determination. His parents tried to pull him back, but he stood his ground. "He's protecting us. You should say sorry." The boy's words struck a chord with the crowd. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the spectators, and several people began clapping. The man's face turned crimson as he glanced around, suddenly aware of the disapproving eyes on him. He muttered a half-hearted apology, barely meeting the guard's gaze, and slinked back into the crowd. As the man disappeared into the throng, the guard turned and walked back to his post, his movements as precise and disciplined as ever. He handed the mask to a nearby official, who discreetly removed it from the scene. The guard then resumed his position, his rifle held firmly against his shoulder, his expression as stoic as it had been at the start of the day. The crowd began to disperse, conversations buzzing with the events they had just witnessed. Some expressed admiration for the guard's composure, while others condemned the man's behavior. A few lingered to snap final photos, their lenses now focused on the guard with newfound respect. The young boy, now held firmly by his mother, looked up at the guard with wide eyes. "You're really brave," he said softly. Though the guard gave no verbal response, a faint flicker of acknowledgement passed through his eyes, a subtle yet profound connection between the two. As the square emptied, a woman in a trench coat stood near the fountain, her phone in hand. She uploaded the video to social media with the caption, Dignity in the face of disrespect. Long live tradition. Within minutes, the video began to gain traction, drawing comments from around the world. "This guard is a true hero," one user wrote. Another commented, "A powerful reminder of why respect matters." As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over the palace, the guard remained steadfast at his post. The square grew quieter, the day transitioning into evening. Though the events of the morning had passed, their impact lingered, a testament to the enduring power of dignity and tradition.